So why would they lie about the shape of the earth? Because they're trying to hide subjectivity from us. That's what it comes down to. They're trying to hide subjectivity. They put it on the back of the dollar bill, though. You know, if you look down a long hallway, we're all very familiar with the phenomena of perspective. And that's when you look down a long hallway, everything seems to converge at a very single point. In fact, it looks like a pyramid shape almost. The walls on the side start to come towards a single point. The roof, or rather the ceiling and the floors, converge to a single point, and they all four come together. And it looks like you're looking down a pyramid. Funny that on the back of the dollar bill, there's an eye on top of the pyramid. In truth, the phenomenon of looking down a hallway and it appearing like a pyramid shape is really a consequence of subjective experience. It's a consequence of the way that we subjectively see the world. And I was listening to some very fascinating, some flat earthers have been doing a bunch of research. There's a channel called Flat Earth Debate, and they just debate the shit out of this stuff. And anyone's welcome to jump into the Google Hangout and debate at any time. So I'm always hearing the globe perspective as well. And these flat earthers, I'll put the links below to the relevant videos, but they're quite confident that they've stumbled upon a very peculiar discovery. And that is that, according to them, and I haven't double checked it for myself, but in the name of Aristotle and entertaining an idea without accepting it, let's act in accordance with some of history's greatest intellectuals here, and let's adopt some of their principles, and let's be truly intellectual. Let's listen to the leaders of intellect throughout history, like Aristotle. Let's entertain a crazy idea here without accepting it. So, according to these flat Earth researchers, the rate at which we perceive things descending in the distance, like a hallway, for example, the rate at which we see the ceiling come down and the floor come up and the walls come in and converge at a point in the distance, these things could all be mapped out mathematically with degrees and angles. I'm sure there's a formula for it too. This rate of convergence caused by your eye's perspective, apparently that rate at which things converge is the same rate at which our Earth curves. According to these flat Earth researchers, again, I'll put the links in the description, the rate at which our eyes perceive the world in the distance to converge can be mapped perfectly, according to these flat Earth researchers, can be mapped perfectly onto a 24,901 mile circumference sphere Earth. In fact, in many cases, you might see mountains in the distance, for example. You might see mountains in the distance. And these mountains in the distance, you might see mountains that are disappearing in the distance, and you might see those mountains descending lower, and you might think, oh, that's the curve of the Earth. Mountains further away are lower. Even though we've measured the mountains and they're all the same size, the ones that are further away are lower because they're falling down along the curve. They're following down the bend of the sphere. The problem with that, though, is that can also be a phenomenon caused by perspective. That can also just be that Assuming you have a bunch of mountains that are extended out for 20, 30, 40 miles or more, and we assume those mountains are all the same height, these doors, these windows here, are also the exact same height. Notice that the closer side of the window that's higher up and it's closer to you from your perspective, it appears to be higher up than the further side of the window. You see how it follows a downward trajectory? In real life, if you measured it, it doesn't actually go down. It's just the way your eyes perceive the world. It's just perspective. So things appear, if you're looking at the peaks of mountains will appear over a far enough distance, they will appear to get shorter and shorter and shorter, because that's the way your eyes work. Just like in this hallway, things that are closer to you are higher up. But as you go down further into the distance, it gets lower and lower and lower and lower. Even though everything is actually the exact same height. Like, for example, these doors. There's a door all the way in the back there. It's lower than this door, which is up here. So things get smaller. If you're looking at the tops of things, they appear to come down. If you're looking at the floor or the base, it will appear to come up and converge. So, what a weird and crazy coincidence that, according to these flat earth researchers, and they have a lot of little examples there and photographs that they've compared and things, and again, I'll put the links below. According to them, the rate of perspective, the way when you're looking down a hallway, things seem to converge, that same rate applies and can be mapped quite perfectly to the curve of the Earth model. So now the real question is, what are the frickin' odds of that? What are the odds that the rate at which the Earth curves would also be consistent with the rate at which our eyes work in accordance with perspective and how things in the distance seem to drop down and converge to a single point? To me, the odds of that are just too ridiculous to really just think it's coincidence. And this is where we start getting into the potential motives, the big fat why would they lie about the shape of the earth question. Well, here's a potential explanation. Why would they lie? Because they've literally hijacked subjectivity. I mean, let's just play Aristotle's game of entertaining an idea without accepting it. Or if it turns out that the Earth, the globe model is flawed, that would mean that the globe model has hijacked subjectivity. It's hijacked the eye of the beholder. It's hijacked, to use Nathan Oakley's word for it, co-opted. The globe model has co-opted our subjective perception. Because if it turns out that the apparent tendency of things far off in the distance to get lower and lower as if it's going beyond the curvature, if that is actually just the way our eyes perceive the world, like looking down a long hallway, then that means that the globe model, like Nathan Oakley says, links below, the globe model has co-opted, it has taken the way that we perceive things, looking down a long hallway, it's taken that and superimposed it onto a ball. And again, assuming that we've been deceived and assuming we've been lied to, just to play Aristotle's game. If we've been lied to and you wonder why the hell would they lie about that? Well, because they get to get rid of subjectivity. Instead of things in the distance appearing to get smaller and lower and eventually disappear or really just converge because of the way you subjectively perceive the world because of perspective. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that the external physical world, the globe you live on, is a sphere. It's not your subjective experience of the world around you that makes things in the distance get smaller to a point. It's that we live on a ball, and the way you perceive things getting smaller, like peaks of mountains in the distance, getting smaller and smaller and converging in the distance, that's not a consequence of your perception. It's a consequence of the external material world, the curved ball earth we live on. So that would mean that the globe has co-opted, take Nathan Oakley's word for it, co-opted the way we perceive the world. Looking down a long hallway, everything converges like a pyramid. And our eyes, the way our eyes, look at the eye on the back of the dollar bill, the capstone. The eye perceives down a long hallway. The hallway converges like a pyramid. We perceive the world that way. We perceive the world that way. It's fun. Fun thought experiment here. So what does that mean? Why would they lie? Because the globe model goes hand in hand with the heliocentric model, which goes hand in hand with the physicalist model, which goes hand in hand with the atheistic model, which goes hand in hand with the satanic model. And it's all about disempowerment. It's all about harming people. It's all about there's no purpose to life. It's all hopeless. It's all nihilistic. There's no subjectivity. There's no eye of the beholder. There's no eye of the beholder. Your eyes are not creating the way you see the world. It's the ball earth creating the apparent tendency of objects in the distance to converge and drop down in this case. It's wild stuff. So they're taking subjectivity out of the formula. They're robbing you of your subjective perception. And that's what this war is about, probably fundamentally. It's probably a spiritual war. It's why the mainstream physicalist atheists have been frantically moving the goalpost and trying to cover up the implications of quantum physics now for nearly a century. The fact that the double slit experiment very heavily alludes to the possibility that consciousness plays a fundamental role in the workings of the universe. And if you don't believe that because you think you've heard the physicalist counter-arguments, go look up the quantum eraser experiment performed in the 90s that took the quantum physics double slit experiment to a whole new level and even further verified that yes, consciousness, subjectivity, your perceiving subjective eye plays a role in the way that the universe operates at a fundamental level. The physical universe dependent upon subjective consciousness. Subjective consciousness. It's the whole thing is about denying that. It's about robbing you of your subjective experience. Um, so I just had to get that out there. I hope I made some sense. Um, why would they lie? They've literally taken your soul. They've taken your damn soul. They've taken the very thing that makes you you. Your subjective experience, consciousness, the soul, awareness, subjectivity, whatever you want to call it. You don't even have that. The very way you perceive reality, looking down a long hallway, the very way that you subjectively see reality with the law of perspective, that very function has been taken away from you and superimposed onto a globe ball earth. And you are told that no. If you see mountains in the distance appearing to get smaller and shorter as they go further and further, that's not because you know how your eyesight works. It's called angular distance. It's called angular, what is it called? Angular size. No, it's not that. It's not that your eyes, your subjective experience is making those mountains look smaller and shorter as they go off into the distance. It's that they're getting smaller and shorter behind a curve. Behind a curve. Of course, in your own personal experience, you know that when you look down a hallway, you know that this window is not actually higher up than this door. You know they're at the same level. But you know that because of the way your eyesight and your perspective works, it's going to look higher up because it's closer to you. And things further away are going to look more further down. And according to these flat earth researchers that I was talking about, I'll put a link in the description below, they're saying that the rate at which perspective works, the rate at which things descend and converge, can be mapped basically perfectly onto the alleged 24,901 mile spherical ball Earth. So they've taken your subjectivity from you and they superimposed it onto some external physical matter thing and a ball. And then they go ahead and they tell you that you live on a space rock flying through a universe for no reason, all purposelessly. It's a religion of nihilism. It's a religion of pessimism. It's a religion of hopelessness and disempowerment. That's what it's all about. The eye in the back of the dollar bill. Maybe that's what the goddamn pyramid means, man. That'd be wild, huh? Maybe that's what it means. Who the hell knows? The pyramid, the eye, subjectivity, looking down that hallway. Thank you guys for watching. Check out those. Holy crap, guys. Can you see that? The Earth is freaking cat. Check them out, guys. The brand new The Earth is Cat t-shirts are now available. They come in a variety of shirts and colors. I also got some great mugs available. Sweater hoods. Get yourself one of these The Earth is Cat t-shirts. I'll put a link to them in the description below. Get one from yourself right now.